0. I'm not increasing y, but I'm increasing x. That is why it is 100,0, but don't forget the symbol at. So I press enter. So that line is drawn along x-axis because I say let it be 100 along x, but let it be 0 along y. So that is relative coordinate. We are going to do a lot of exercise to explain that, but I'm just trying to differentiate between absolute point and relative point. So when you know the exact point of all your objects, either you are drawing a rectangle, whatever you are drawing, and you know all the points that make up the drawing, then you are going to use absolute. But when you don't have a specific point, but you are starting from an arbitrary point, you can be locating other points in relative to that point that you chose arbitrarily or randomly at the beginning. Now, to review, absolute points are exact points on the drawing space. Relative points are relative to an object on the drawing space. So it is a very simple system, but you need to understand it. And I'm going to spend a lot of time here in order to make sure that you really understand it. Okay? Now before I get to angular measurement, now let's go back to AutoCAD. Let's delete this. Okay, let me undo. You see, I selected like this. I press my mouse left button and I drag from bottom up. It gives me green color, green rectangle. But if I press my left mouse and I drag from top down, I have blue. And if I do it like this, nothing is being selected, but if I do it like this, it's selecting the two lines. Now, why is this? Now, this one that is blue from top down, we call it window selection. It can only select any object that it covers totally. For example, if I try to cover this vertical line totally, it will be selected. But if I cover any one of them partially, it won't select it. If I cover this horizontal line totally, it will be selected. Now, but the other one, if I press my left button, I recommend that you use external mouse for AutoCAD or any CAD software. It makes your life easier. So if I press the left button and I drag from bottom to up, it's going to select any object it touches. So you can see the difference between the window selection and the cross selection. We call this one cross selection, this green one. The blue is called window selection. So when I do window selection, you have to cover all the objects. But when I do cross selection, just touch any part of the object, it will be selected. If I try to touch any part of the two lines, the two of them will be selected by cross selection, which is green. But by window selection, you have to cover the whole object before it can be selected. So I digress a little there. And we are going to experience a lot of digression like that in order to learn some little things that will make life easier in AutoCAD. So let's do the window selection to cover everything and press delete on your keyboard to delete that. Now still on the absolute point and the relative point. I said it is a simple system, but mastering it is the key to working with AutoCAD. So I'm going to explain it in more detail again. Okay, let's say I want to draw this line, and I start line command. Let's say my first point is a 50, 100. I'm typing 50, 100, no space. That is, I want to locate a point which is at a distance 50 along the x-axis, but at distance 100 along the y-axis. If I press enter, so immediately after you type, just press enter. The point is located, but is out. I can't see it within the screen. If I try to move, I can't still locate it. So, if that be the case, there are some preliminary things you need to do in AutoCAD before you begin to draw. Number one, I would recommend that you set your units. You need to set your units. All the distance I've been entering, I don't even know if it is in inches or if it is, if they are in inches or they are in millimeter. So you need to set your units. Then 2, you have to zoom your screen. So if I zoom the screen, I'll be able to see all my drawing at once. You can zoom all, or zoom a window, or zoom a dynamic. I'm going to show you different kind of zooming. Then another thing that you will need to do, if your screen was like this with a grid display, you may turn it off by clicking on drafting setting tool. This tool here, look at the mouse. Just turn it off. We have done it before. Turn it off. Then, as a beginner AutoCAD user, there are some drafting setting tools you will need, which I recommend that you turn on. That is the polar tracking, object snap, and object snap tracking. Those 3 are very important. Any other one like this dynamic input. Now let's dynamic input. If you enable it, if you start line command, you see these some symbols, some text boxes following your drawing about. It's always confusing for beginner AutoCAD user. So I recommend that you turn it off. If you turn it off, you won't see it again. They are gone. But if you turn it on, dynamic input, you are going to see those text boxes, and they allow you to see quickly the angle at which you are drawing a line and the length of the line. So the command is being shown. It's a cool thing if you are already comfortable with AutoCAD. But for now, let's disable it. So don't forget that the polar tracking, the object snap, and the object snap tracking, I recommend those 3 to be enabled. So now back to our absolute coordinate. But before that, let me emphasize again that we need to set unit. We need to zoom our screen. We need to turn off the grid. Then we need to enable some drafting setting tools like object snap, polar tracking, and object snap tracking, and disable every other one. When they are enabled, they are in blue color, as you can see on the screen here. But when they are disabled, they are gray in color. Another thing you will need to do, assuming your screen was like this, when you begin to draw, you have XYZ. So you may have to change to top view by clicking here. For those using AutoCAD 2010 and below, you may have to go to View tab, the other View tab, under Views panel rather. If you expand this, you may have to select Top. So if it was like a Southwest isometric before, you are going to have XYZ. So that is a 3D environment, but when you come here, you can select Top to change it to 2D. So you see your UCS icon or World Coordinate System icon is now changed to X and Y. So these are the preliminary things you do. Now let's set our unit. If I go to this menu browser, or what we call application button there, then I can click on drawing utilities. Under drawing utilities, you can click on units. Then you have this dialog box. So that is how to get there. Let me do it again. You go to application button, click this letter A, click on draw, you put your mouse on draw utilities, then you select units. Alright. Then another thing you can do, you can come to command window and type units. It's plural. There has to be S after the unit. So it is units, and press enter. So the same dialog box will come out. So the area that I will focus on now is the insertion scale. You need to scale inserted content. So that is what will determine your unit. It has to be millimeters. Then our length type is decimal. Precision will determine whether you are going to enter decimals, numbers in 4 decimal places, 3 decimal places. If you are dealing with whole number, you select 0. But you know you are going to have lines, the lengths, or the distances up to 4 decimal places, you leave it. By default, I usually leave this area. The angle, are you going to use decimal degree angle or radian or degree minute seconds? So I leave it as decimal. The precision of the angle, are you going to have something like 30.5 degree or 28.94 degree, or it's going to be whole number like 30, 60, 120, 180. So I leave it as whole number. Then you can override this. When we get to angular measurement, I'm still coming back here to explain. But for now, what you need now is this millimeter. By default, AutoCAD is in inches, but I want to change it to millimeters because either as architect or engineer, we make use of millimeters in our drawing. So let's say okay there. So it appears nothing happens, but many things have happened in the background. Our unit is now in millimeters. Okay, now let's see what we can do with this relative and absolute coordinate. I will postpone that until we get to our exercise. But just know the difference between the absolute point and the relative point. Okay? Now let's come to angular measurement in AutoCAD. AutoCAD measures angles in a particular way. When drawing lines at an angle, you have to begin measuring the angle from 0 degree. In AutoCAD, our 0 degree is at 3 o'clock position. Now if you look at clock, so this is on the right hand, the right quadrant there, that's 3 o'clock. And in AutoCAD, our 0 starts from 3 o'clock, and we usually measure angle anti-clockwise by default. So you start measuring angle from 0 to 90. Then look at the way I'm tracing my mouse to 180, to 270, to 360, which is something as 0 there. So in AutoCAD by default, angles are measured anti-clockwise. That is, in opposite direction of the clock. An angle starts from 3 o'clock, our 0 starts from 3 o'clock. Please don't forget those 2 points, that the 0 of AutoCAD starts from 3 o'clock and you measure angle anti-clockwise. Now, you might not always have an obvious reference point for 0 degree. In the example below, look at AutoCAD. Look at the diagram below. You want to draw this line. You are giving this angle 150 degree. Now the question is, in AutoCAD language, at what angle will you draw this line? You agree with me that the angle on a straight line is 180. So the remaining angle will be 30. So for AutoCAD, you are going to enter 30. For example, let me go to AutoCAD. If I click on Home and Start Line Command, and I draw this line horizontally, and I want to draw the other line from here, and I want that line to be at angle 50 degree to what we have here. 150 degree rather. So in AutoCAD, your mind should be that your 0 start from here. So to draw this line, you are going to subtract 150 from 180. That will give you 30. So since we measure angle like in this direction, look at my mouse, in this direction anti-clockwise. So the angle is going to be at 30 degree from the 0. So what we do now is we go back to AutoCAD. We'll now say you give the length of the line. Maybe the length of the line is 50 at, I will say at 50 angle 30. So look at the way I type it. It's a relative coordinate relative to this point. At 50 means the length of the line. This less than symbol means angle 30 degree. If I press enter, you see that the other line is drawn at angle 30 degree to the previous line. We're going to see more of that. We're still going to do a lot of practice based on that. But for now, just know that the AutoCAD 0 degree start from 3 o'clock, and in AutoCAD we measure angle anti-clockwise. Though you can override that, you can decide to measure your angle clockwise. So how do we do that?